Hi guys, my name is Ace and welcome to my YouTube channel. Today I'll be doing this tutorial video on frequency separation. I've noticed there are a lot of photographers out there who are using the same frequency separation settings for different kind of shots. And normally if you understand how frequency separation works, you're supposed to use different settings for different shots, whether it's medium shots, close-up shots, or wide-angle shots. So for the sake of that, I'll be doing this tutorial video with 3 different pictures showing you how you're supposed to use different frequency separation settings for those 3 pictures. Let's get right into it. So I have medium shots here, and the first thing you are supposed to do when you're about to do your frequency separation is to duplicate your background layer twice. The layer 1, you can rename it anyhow you wish. Okay, so you rename your layer 1 as low frequency. You rename your layer 1 as low frequency, and then you rename the other layer as high frequency. So you close the high frequency and then select the low frequency. Then you go to filter, blur, Gaussian blur. Now the low frequency is actually the layer that is in charge of the smoothness of your image. You know what frequency separation does is that it helps you mix the tones first of all, and then it helps you smoothen your image, and lastly it helps you bring out the texture of the image. So this low frequency is in charge of smoothing the image, while the high frequency deals with bringing out the texture. That's, you are separating the texture from the smoothness of the image. That means you can actually touch the two at the same time. So for this low frequency, we are working with Gaussian blur, and this is the main aspect that determines the outcome of your image. Now on this Gaussian blur, we have our radius. For the radius, this is exactly where you need to change settings for different kind of images. If you are having a medium shot or wide angle shot or extreme close-up, you are supposed to use different Gaussian blur settings for each of these images. And I figured out a lot of photographers out there are actually using the same Gaussian blur value for different kind of images, which is not supposed to be so. So now I'll be showing you how the same settings would affect your pictures, and how using different settings can actually give you different and better results. Okay, the right way you are supposed to use your Gaussian blur is to just use it in such a way that it only covers the skin texture. So you use an amount that only covers your skin texture. So as you are increasing your radius for the Gaussian blur, you constantly check the picture and make sure you stop at the point where you are no longer seeing the textures of your image. So for this image, I'll be using 10. Let's see. Okay, this is good too. No, I'll be using 10 for this image. And then you can open the high frequency. From here you go to image, apply image, then this layer you are to select low frequency. Your blending mode should be on subtract, offset should be 1 to 8, and then your scale should be 2. Okay. As you can see, our textures are actually back, just like I told you before. This high frequency is actually in charge of bringing out the texture of your image, while this low frequency is in charge of the smoothness. That's why we are using the Gaussian blur on the low frequency, and then the apply image stuff on the high frequency. So on this high frequency, you just change your blending mode from normal to linear light, and you have your big picture back like you did nothing. So from this point, you are actually ready to use your mixer brush to mix the tones and get a smooth and sharp image. Now let's see how the same Gaussian blur settings will affect another picture that is not taken exactly the same way. Now we have a wide angle picture here. Okay, this is a full picture, so you can zoom in on the face. And now we used our Gaussian blur. The Gaussian blur we used for the former image, the radius was 10. So let's try and use the same thing for this image and see what happens. Remember, we are supposed to just use the Gaussian blur to an extent where you no longer see the textures. Remember, we are supposed to use the Gaussian blur to an extent where you no longer see the textures. So we have filter, blur, Gaussian blur, and now we have 10. Just mere looking at this, you will see that the Gaussian blur effect is too much on this picture already, much more than we actually need. So we are actually supposed to reduce this just to an extent where we are no longer seeing the skin textures. Now you see that using the same Gaussian blur on different pictures would really affect your pictures, and you never can tell it may actually okay. So now you can see that you're actually supposed to use different Gaussian blur settings for different pictures. So let's reduce this Gaussian blur and see which radius is actually suitable for this particular picture. Okay, let me use 4. Alright, so I'm okay with radius of 4 on this particular image. Okay, so from here you open the first layer, which is our high. Let me rename them. This is supposed to be low frequency, and then this is high frequency. Okay, so this high frequency now, the next thing we need to do is go to image, apply image. Just like I told you before, select low frequency, subtract 1 to 8, the scale is 2, and then okay. Change the blending mode to linear light, and once again we are ready to use our mixer brush. So now we have a close-up shot here, which is quite different from the first picture we used. Now let's do the same procedure for this and find out how much Gaussian blur this particular let's find out how much Gaussian blur the frequency separation for this particular picture is going to need. Close this, rename this as low frequency. Low frequency. And then rename this as high frequency. Now select the low frequency, filter, blur, Gaussian blur. So remember we used radius of 4 for our former image, and just look at it, I can still see the textures really well. So we will have to increase this Gaussian blur. This at least proves to you that you are not supposed to use the same Gaussian blur we used for the former image for this same image too. So let's use this. Let's see what this gives us. Still see the textures. Okay, so I think I'll use 14 for this one. Okay, then select your high frequency image, apply image. From there, you select the low frequency blending mode, subtract, offset is 128, and then scale is 2. Okay, then change your blending mode to linear light. And now we have our picture again, and then we are ready to use our mixer brush. So your mixer with your mixer brush, you actually have a particular settings you are supposed to use. Call it mixer brush presets. So they are here. We have the wet, load, mix, flow, and then I will definitely explain. We have the wet, load, mix, and flow. So I'll be explaining these mixer brush settings in my next video. And then doing your frequency separation, there are a lot of things you actually have to understand about the human facial structure, which will actually help you understand enough how to use your mixer brush on your images, which I'll also explain in my next video. I hope you find this information very helpful, and I hope you look forward to my next video. And in the next video, we can actually talk more on how to use your mixer brush on your images, while we'll discuss on how to use your mixer brush on your images while doing your frequency separation. Thank you so much. Make sure you subscribe to my channel. Thank you.